Kelly Knox, thank you very much for being here. Just to explain a bit about you, which you can probably do much better than I can, but you're the UK's leading disabled model, I think that's correct.
That's what it says on my
on your Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
But you're a model and you also work as a spokesperson for diversity in fashion. And I want to start by sort of going quite early back in your life and asking a bit about your relationship with prosthetics, because obviously our exhibition at SHOWstudio here at the moment is about prosthetics. And you've talked about how you didn't like wearing one when you were a kid. I think there's a great quote you talk about sort of throwing it off when you're in the post office. Why didn't you sort of engage with a prosthetic?
I think when I was younger, when I used to go up to the Roehampton Hospital, seeing like lots of children with limbs missing used to really upset me. I remember once seeing a little baby and he had like no arms and no legs and he was crawling around. It just upset me so much. I do remember a rocking horse being there, and I love going there for that reason.
Just the one attraction of being there.
That was good. And also when there was like fitting the prosthesis, they used to put like I don't know, it's like a kind of cold bandage around your arm, and that kind of used to feel good. But actually, the arm itself, it just used to freak me out a little bit. It never, you know, looked like my arm. It never felt like my arm. And to be honest, without the false arm, I felt completely abled. When I was wearing the false arm, that disabled me because I wasn't able to do stuff that, you know, I could do without it. For instance, you know, riding a bike when I was small, I just learned, you know, without it, and that's how I managed it. So if I was to wear one, it would just be really awkward. And things like doing my hair and just normal everyday stuff, really. And as well, because I've got the elbow joint, I use my arm a lot for, like, for instance, tying shoelaces and things like that. So if I had the false arm on, I wouldn't be able to do that because I need to use my arm.
So it was very much kind of the physical side of wearing one that it felt quite clumsy. It wasn't so much kind of any sort of emotional dislike for the prosthesis. It was more just that you sort of, as you said, you found your own way of working. Yeah,
definitely. And I think as well, if I was to wear one, then it's purely for cosmetic reasons, and why should I feel like I need to wear it just to look like everybody else in the street? I was really comfortable without it, and that's it really. I'm interested that you say that you kind of, because you mentioned kind of physically that you've never felt like held back in any way, but you've also said that you've never felt like you couldn't do something you wanted to do. Has that sort of positive attitude, has that just always been innate to you? Is that something that you kind of struggled with a bit? Have you had to, or have you always just been like, life's fine, this is how I'm going to get on with things? I think that's how I've always really been throughout my life, really. If I've ever wanted to do anything, I just, you know, did it as a child, never really had any fear, never really even gave having, you know, a piece of my arm missing a second thought. Just kind of did it. I think it used to scare my mum at times, really. Because my mum can't swim, and I remember being on holiday and she just jump in the pool and just swim, and she was just like really scared. Like, I'm fine, I can swim.
You just found your own way of doing things. That's amazing, though.
I think as well, because I was born like this, it's just kind of normal for me. So I've just sort of grown up having my own, you know, unique way of doing things. Okay, I don't do things as someone with two hands, but I still do it, just in a different way.
And that ties into what you were saying, I guess, about wearing a prosthetic. It's almost like, why should you just try and do it for a cosmetic reason to sort of resemble this idea of what a human should look like, when it's not something that you feel you need to, or not something that makes you feel any more comfortable?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to talk a bit about fashion, because obviously you're a model, and I want to talk about your earlier sort of interactions with fashion, because was it something you were interested in when you were growing up? Did you read fashion magazines or look at beauty magazines at all, or anything like that?
When I was little, I remember reading Shout and Bliss and Sugar.
All the good ones.
Yeah, they were my magazines, and I loved it. And I loved fashion and the beauty side of things as well. And I was always you know, getting ingredients from my mum's kitchen cupboard and making face masks and, you know, and hair masks and stuff like that. I remember being in my garden once, my old friend, and we like did our own fashion shoot, and she was laying on the, I styled her, and she was laying on the grass and she was holding the Shout magazine. I took a picture of her, but I had my shadow in the picture, so it wasn't that good. I remember my dog getting involved as well in the shoot. So yeah, I've always been interested in it, but I can't say it's really, I didn't look in the magazine and think, oh, why isn't there anyone like me? I just kind of just enjoyed the magazine for what it was, really.
So you never felt kind of a detachment, or you never felt sort of put off by the kind of perfect imagery that you were seeing in there?
No, not at all, strangely enough.
Is that something that's entered your, because obviously you do a lot of work sort of speaking about diversity in fashion, and some of the stuff you've appeared in, like the Debenhams campaign that we'll talk about later, is very much focused on sort of championing diversity in fashion. So where was it once you got into modelling that you started to kind of realise how limiting, in a way, fashion is?
Definitely. It wasn't really until I was submersed into the world of modelling that I actually felt disabled, because I feel the industry really does put the barriers up. So yeah, it wasn't really until then.
So talk to me about how you first got involved in modelling.
I entered Britain's Missing Top Model on BBC Three. I saw the competition. I thought, yeah, I'll have a piece of that. I think I had the right kind of attitude, and even meeting the producers like before the show, it was kind of like they disbelieved that I didn't feel disabled, and I just think they kind of liked that kind of attitude that I had. So initially, it wasn't the modelling that interested me. It wasn't until I got involved in the show and, you know, had my hair and makeup done and started wearing all the cool clothes, and you know, yeah, I thought, do you know what, this is all me, and I loved it, and I just thought I'm actually, you know, good at this as well. And I ended up winning the competition, and that's how really my career started.
So off the back of the competition, is it then that you started to kind of feel that that fashion was quite limited in the sense of the type of people that it wanted to represent in their images? Were you trying to book kind of jobs that people wouldn't consider you for? When was the point that you started to feel kind of, you said like it wasn't until I started modelling that I felt disabled. What kind of made you feel that way?
I just think the opportunities out there is very limited for somebody with a disability, and you know, having my arm missing has never been a problem until, you know, trying to pursue my modelling career. So it was straight away, really.
And why do you think it's so important? Do you think it is, because you mentioned when you were a child that it didn't upset you to see people in magazines that didn't sort of look like you. So talk to me, why do you think it is so important? Do you think there are other young people out there who would look at magazines and feel really put off by not seeing someone who represented them there, whether it's in their ethnicity or in their shape or anything about them? Do you feel that is really, really important, that magazines can have this effect on people's confidence?
I think so as well, because I think times have really changed, and like now we are really a media-driven society, and I think, you know, children growing up now are more affected by images they see in fashion magazines or in advertising campaigns or, you know, on the TV. I remember when I won the competition, my brother was working in a house, wasn't really too far from where I lived actually, and there was a young girl living there with her mum, and he had to do some work upstairs, and in her bedroom the girl was a wheelchair user. She had a picture of me and her on her wall. And my brother was like, that's my sister. And she was like, oh my God, you know, I love her. You know, she gives me so much strength and confidence, and can I hug you? And my brother was like, yeah, of course. And like, just them kind of stories, and just to think, you know, just by me, you know, being in a magazine or being in this campaign has made her feel like that. That's why it's really important. And since doing the show, I've had so many messages from young girls with disabilities and without, you know, saying, you know, I've helped them with self-esteem and stuff like that. So I really think it's important.
Do you think it helps people talk about it as well, if they see that, you know, that it's something that doesn't just affect them? Have you found that a lot, that it opens this dialogue and people feel comfortable discussing? Yeah,
I definitely think so, because I mean, disability needs to be normalised, and I think it can only be normalised by being, you know, out there, whether it is, you know, on TV or in fashion magazines. So the more it is, the more people will be accepting of it. Because, you know, other than myself, I didn't know anyone else like me, you know, growing up, or I never had friends that were disabled. So I can, you know, understand people if they have a kind of, not a fear, but if you don't know anyone with a disability, then, you know, you just don't have that knowledge of...
You don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, the more it's out there, the more people will just be more accepting of it.
That's interesting actually, because I wanted to ask you about when you did, what was the name of the, is it Britain's Missing Top Model, is that what it was called? Yeah, when you did that programme, you didn't feel in any way sort of that it was trivialising the issue or turning it into sort of a spectacle in any way? Because I think with programmes like that, there's always a fine line between it sort of opening up a narrative and giving people a licence to discuss something and giving something a platform, but also between it sort of turning it into entertainment. That never bothered you?
No, I just kind of felt I'm just going to go with the flow and just enjoy it. I never expected to win it, or that wasn't my intention until I was in the show and really developed a passion for it and thought, I want this so much. But it did feel really weird for me being submersed into a world of disability when beforehand that wasn't my world.
Yeah.
You know, it really was strange.
Did that change your perceptions of yourself in any way? Because you said, you know, you never felt disabled, so being around people who labelled themselves as disabled and being labelled as disabled, did you start to sort of feel different about yourself or feel better about was there any kind of way in which it changed your perception of who you were?
It kind of made me realise people's attitudes towards disability and again, you know, the fashion industry's views on it. So yeah, it really was eye-opening for me.
Let's talk a bit about the Debenhams campaign, because you've just taken part in this amazing campaign which is the high street retailer Debenhams have done, which is kind of it's celebrating diversity, and it's got people of all different sort of shapes and sizes. How did you come to be involved in that?
Well, I met Jane Gulpin a few years ago because I worked on How to Look Good Naked with her on that. I was one of Gokwan's Gokettes, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was good. And then I worked on Dogs, Rocks and Frocks for the Canine Partners, and I met Karen there.
That's Karen Franklin.
Yeah, Karen Franklin. And then Jane just gave me a text, said, are you still modelling and would you like to get involved? Come to a casting, went to the casting, and then the rest is history. Yeah.
So how did it feel to be, because Debenhams is obviously, it's an incredibly well-known show. I think everyone in Britain's heard of Debenhams. It's a huge retailer. How did it feel for them to be championing diversity and making it such a sort of important issue to them? It must have felt really amazing to think that it was being taken up sort of outside of a niche area.
It felt really empowering as well. I just thought, you know, why hasn't anyone done this sooner? And I think the images just look fantastic, all of us girls and the guys also together.
Yeah.
Just everyone of all different, you know, shapes, sizes, ethnicities, and, you know, me and Steffi, it looked really good and just had such a good time.
Yeah, what was the shoot like? Was it really, really fun?
It was really fun. I mean, one of my favourite parts of any shoot is getting the hair and makeup done, because you know, the transformation is just so good when someone professional is doing your hair and makeup.
Yeah.
And yeah, just had a really, really good time. I think as well on photo shoots it's just all about embracing, you know, the atmosphere and just enjoying it. The music's playing and it's just so fun. It doesn't feel like work, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, it just really boosts your confidence. And have people's reactions to it been really amazing? Have you found that people, because you mentioned you saw it in the Evening Standard and people were texting you, is it, I guess it's similar to seeing your picture on a little girl's wall, it's that thing again of people seeing you and identifying with what you're doing? Definitely. And I looked on, because it's on the Daily Mail as well online, and I was reading people's comments and stuff like that, and it was really positive, which is really good. So surely that's a message to other brands and retailers to know that they should also be, you know, doing the same. And that's what I'm scared of as well. Like, I just think sometimes using a disability in a shoot is a bit gimmicky. It should be in every campaign for every brand. You know, that's the only way it's going to be normalised and people will be more accepting of it. Because Karen's talked about this really interestingly, how she says, you know, why won't brands realise if they use a woman that looks like, I hate the phrase real women because everyone's real, normal or kind of your average woman. If you use a woman that looks like that, whether it's an average dress size or of all different body shapes, actually you sell better because women identify with it more. And why do you think fashion just doesn't seem to pick up on that? I don't know, I just think maybe they're just stuck in their kind of status quo views about what is beautiful and what people, you know, want to see in advertising campaigns. You know, perfection doesn't exist. You know, we'll have our imperfections, which is perfect in its own way. That's a lovely note to end on. Kelly, thank you so much. That was welcome. So interesting.